Maurizio Catalan's Comedien piece sold for $6.2 million. We have Jeff Koons' rabbit that sold for $9.9 million. Felix Gonzalez Torres' Strand of Lights, untitled, sold for $13 million. So my question for this video is it beautiful or is it just expensive? So this is something that I see in every field. So whether it's fashion, arts, jewelry, beauty, I find that more often than not, the focus is not on the concept, the design, but really on the aura around how valuable this piece actually is. For all three art pieces, they were all sold at exuberant prices. And I understand that the art world is a little bit different than the fashion world in the sense that the concept behind the piece can be very important. The prestige of the artist, the heritage of the piece. These are all things that will be considered in valuing the piece. But I do find it interesting that the visual representation of the concept is so lacking. So for all of these three pieces, they have sold for prosperitas. For all three of these pieces, the art were sold for exuberant prices. And I really want to challenge the idea of looking at these from a critical standpoint. When you're looking at this strand of light that literally sold for like $13 million, don't you think that the actual visual representation of the concept should be a little bit stronger? Art in and of itself is an expression of creativity, and it's an expression of, your genuine self and emotions. And I feel like when you're going to view art, you should feel those emotions. And when I'm looking at these pieces, it really falls short. And this is something we see as well in the fashion industry. You can take the classic Birkin, and I know that I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, okay? But hear me out. If you look at the Birkin, and I want you to forget everything, the heritage, the brand, I want you to forget, the actual value of it, right? Because these are pieces that go anywhere from $10,000 to $250,000 a bag. Stop and look at it, okay? This is the most bland bag you can find. There's literally nothing special about it, okay? I took 5 minutes going online looking for upcoming designers, all bags under $1,500. These bags were so much nicer. And I don't even like all of them, okay? I don't like all of them, but it is to show that at least I can appreciate the artist behind it and the concept that went behind it. You can see that there's design, there's craftsmanship in the product and in the fabric in and of itself. And so when I compare the two products, it's really like, what is going on, right? For me, valuing those purses at what they are, it's really just a status flex. This concept originally came to me because, being in the jewelry background, I will often see, these very expensive pieces, whether it's on the red carpet or in magazines. And I would just watch people's reaction of when they're looking at these pieces. And honestly, they were always jaw drop, wow, oh my God. But when I look at these pieces, they're so plain. They're actually not that intricate. There's not that much concept. There's not any originality whatsoever. It's just big, obnoxious diamonds, which obviously we know has a very high value. So people are very clearly appreciating something based off of its value versus basing off of its design. The perfect example of this is Drake. So he came out a year or 2 years ago with this diamond necklace that had 42 diamonds of very large carat weights that represented, it's obviously a little satirical and that's why I got a little bit more press, but it was supposed to represent his 42 almost engagements, right? Yeah. Anyway, this got a lot of buzz. This necklace was estimated around $12 to $13 million US. When I look at this necklace, it is so bland, okay? It is so poorly designed. I honestly don't think this guy should be a jeweler because it puts us to shame. You had so much potential to create beautiful bezels and embellishments around each stone, all of them are just awkwardly spaced out, and it just makes you think what are you guys awing about? I could take all of these diamonds out, replace them with CZs, put it on a flea market table, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And I stand by that. So let's really get into what people are actually awing about. So am I missing the point? Now I've been thinking about this and I've dropped 3 points as to why these pieces are getting so much attention. Number one is scarcity. I think that any time there is scarcity and there's very few of one specific item, the classic example is art, they will never generally be reproduced. There's going to be scarcity, and there's going to be value in having something that nobody else has. And so I do think it is, a part of like a flex, because I do think that we tend to associate scarcity with rarity, but it's not necessarily, the better option at the end of the day. Like we touched with the purses, there are much nicer designs that are more in abundance, but people just don't want it because it's not scarce. And companies will play on this scarcity to drive up the value of items, which will then even further that aura of awe around this value. Number 2, we have status. I do think that buying these pieces, especially in the case of like, let's say the banana that sold for $6.5 million, okay? When you look at this piece, it is literally a banana taped to a wall. Like the artist called it le Comedien, and it's very clearly, almost a joke. And the fact that somebody was willing to pay $6.5 million really shows that they are flexing, and they are flexing hard. This says I can throw away $6.5 million and not care. That is what he is saying to the world, because there is no reason why you'd be buying this banana, okay? I can tape a banana to your wall. If you were really invested in art, you would go out and buy a beautiful painting. You would go out and buy a beautiful sculpture where, is actually beautiful and shows design. So this for me is really part of that whole flex culture. Number 3, competition. Now I do think this is a bit of a stereotype, but there's a little bit of truth to it, okay? Wealthy people love to compete. I grew up in a very low household income, and now, I'm around people of, certain status, certain wealth, brackets, and you would be amazed at how often they compete amongst themselves. All the conversation at the dinner table literally comes down to where your house is, what vacation you're going, what car you bought, what university degree you have. It's constantly competing amongst themselves, and there is no better competition than buying something of such high value that somebody else cannot attain. And that's why I think is so relevant, because there's really no other reason why you would be buying these products. It's really just to signal to somebody else that they have something that you can't attain. And so I see this all the time. So ultimately, I do think that we need to change our perception a little bit and start being, very critical consumers, whatever wealth bracket you are. I don't care if you can throw $10 million away on some stupid thing. It's just missing the point, I think the value of art and fashion and everything, it comes down to, how you feel. When you're looking at painting, how do you actually feel? Does it move you? Whether you like the painting or not, it's supposed to invoke something in you. And I think that is the true, backbone of these very creative objects, let's say. I think we just need to look at things from a more critical standpoint. I think as consumers, we need to start evaluating and looking at objects for their creativity, ingenuity, the concept and design and craftsmanship, how is it made? These are all things that I feel should really be valued when you're going to be looking at art pieces, fashion, anything, jewelry, and really coming in and buying something that you appreciate. And forget the whole shishi of displaying your wealth. It does not matter. At the end of the day, nobody cares. And nobody wants to be that guy who just paid $6.5 million for a banana on his wall. That's embarrassing. Hey, my beautiful gems. My name is Dominique Flux. I talk about fashion, art, luxury. So if you like those kinds of topics, then make sure you subscribe and join me for the next one.